Welcome to the AI Cafe. I see that participants are joining. We are in moment 19, and I would like to wait 2 or 3 minutes to start the web cafe. So please be patient and stay online. So I want to welcome you all to the AI for EU Cafe. Today we have Pierre Clavin as our speaker. Hello, Pierre. Hello. And it is very important that this is the first web session in the cafe. It is our pilot. This is mainly for our consortium. Only consortium members are invited. And we will record this session. And we will also try to not share confidential information. Pierre will share his view, his personal view on AI. It is not the official representation of the AI project. So, welcome, everybody. You cannot speak, only the panelist will be able when I give him the word, and the participants can ask questions over the chat. There's like in the panel of GoToWebinar, there is a function called questions. You can enter your questions, and later in the question answer session, Pierre and me will try to give answers to you. So, welcome again. I see 26 participants online. Great. I'm so happy you're all there. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now, Pierre Clavin, I will introduce him. He's from TerraLab, the strategic advisor. Most of you know him. He is also the leader of VP2, and he also is, of course, partner in AI for You project. He has 45 years of IT experience with humble contribution to digital transformation of society and industry. He is contributing to one of the last IT frontiers, trust and data governance, the key elements of the AI promise, and the proposed novel man-machine relationship. In the past, he has contributed in several ICT sector new business creations. He has managed 4 IT startup spin-offs, coached about 100 business ideas and about 10 startups. He has managed about 10 research and innovation projects. As business angel, he has invested in 3 startups and SMEs, and he has managed the TerraLab, the AI big data platform for research and innovation. Thank you for being here. And shortly to me, I am the cafe manager. My name is Carmen McWilliams. I'm the director of grassroots arts. and I am an internet entrepreneur experienced in networking and community activation. And now to our cafe. What is our cafe? Most of you already heard about it, but it's still unclear what it will be in the future, as we as community can shape it together. The idea is that the cafe offers live web sessions to share personal views of consortium members about AI, give insight to the European AI scene, that we meet different AI actors, share knowledge and experiences, and present stories and showcases so people can again gain trust in AI. That's the idea in the beginning. And today, as we said, it's a pilot, and we talk about AI challenges and opportunities beyond hype and fear. Pierre will address some hot and controversial AI topics. Why AI now? Toward a data economy, AI, a geopolitical challenge, European values, trustworthy AI, human-centered AI. And last but least, attention again, Pierre will share his personal view with us. Thank you. And now I hand over to Pierre. So I give him the moderation as well. I will also let him be the moderator. Hello, Pierre. Thank you. I see your PowerPoint presentation, AI challenges.
Okay, great.
Hello?
Yes. Can you hear me too?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and thank you for taking some of your time to participate to this pilot, as Carmen said. We are going to present a few slides and a few views on AI. This is more or less an introduction to various courses we are doing in TerraLab and IMT. Various courses, then we adapt it to mobility, to health, to manufacturing, and so on. So this is the introduction of a course that we have been doing half a dozen of times. So let's start. So we start with very general public view of what AI is today in terms of challenge and opportunities, and also in terms of fears. So let's start now by something that Mr. Bugaev, a mathematician from the last century, tried to do. He tried to define intelligence in front of an audience, and after a while he decided that there was no clear definition of intelligence, so he closed the meeting. Okay, so this is not what I want to do now. Of course, we will continue the meeting, but we are entering into some very controversial aspects. So just this to illustrate the fact that it's not easy to discuss about intelligence, and even more about artificial intelligence. So very quickly, what do we call AI? AI has been a long time around. Let's say it's any techniques that enables computer to mimic human intelligence, and this embeds two specific topics, which is machine learning, which goes from deterministic procedure to statistic procedures for the artificial intelligence purpose, and more recently deep learning. So this is just to illustrate the various topics that we are going to discuss a little bit further. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, all embedded into each other. Why do we discuss artificial intelligence now? Why is so much hype and so much discussion about this subject today? Of course, this started a long time ago. It started even before I was born, because the Turing test is from 1990, so I am not that old. I'm old, but not that old. And went through hypes and lows and hypes and lows. I remember when I was in Silicon Valley in the 1980s, everybody wanted to put expert system in all solutions and so on, but it failed. Okay, and what we see here is that at the turn of this century, there is upgoing trend, and we are going to try to understand why this inflection is from the beginning of this particular century. Okay, so why now? Why now? And it's very interesting to understand why now. Okay, first thing, of course, we have in the world of researchers, constant algorithmic, theoretical, and practical project. And more recently in machine learning, neural networks, and deep learning. So this is a continuous effort from the scientific community. But this has been ongoing for a long time. And what is new now is the obvious availability of computer power and digital storage. That's clear. And that's, of course, very useful to store a lot of data and to launch very demanding machine learning algorithm on those infrastructures. To mention that not only CPU infrastructures are mobilized, but also GPU infrastructure, in particular for the deep learning algorithmics. And the important thing also is that you don't need to own all this power and storage. You can just use them as a service in the cloud, which is very important point. A lot of, well, that's technical. Also, the media, you know, they've been pushed by big guys like IBM in the last century and this century. About, you remember Deep Blue winning against Kasparov, the Jeopardy winning, Watson winning Jeopardy challenge in 2011, and then Google with AlphaGo took over with DeepMind, and of course you have heard all this, but this is in the head of all general public and journalists. A very important thing, but this is of course obvious, the availability of very large number of data, not only from the big GAFAs, and we come back to this, but very soon and even now, a large amount of data from IoT, for instance. We'll come back to this. Important topic which is not mentioned very often is the open source culture that dominates tooling development. We could come back to this, but this is, in my opinion, one of the key points that propelled AI development and advance in the recent past. And of course, all this would be useless if there was no value attached to it. And of course, many commercial applications. And the first to enter this value proposition are, of course, marketing, e-commerce, finance, health sector, and now entering into the manufacturing 4.0 sector, and we will come back to it. So basically, that's why it happens now. Can discuss it, but that's my view of why it happens now. Then, of course, this brings a lot of fantasy, and we need to bring back the reality. And there have been thousands of pieces of news and thousands of articles by very wise journalists on the subject. Let's have a look at a very recent paper from MIT summarizing the fears that we are now experiencing with all this AI hype, let's call it. Yeah, they have summarized the fears in 4 chapters about democracy, of course, personal data and so on, ranking algorithms, the justice and so on. What they call kinetics with autonomous vehicle, but also autonomous weapons. Are the fears. Also, something that's very come from the other side of the ocean. It's not mentioned very often in Europe. Manipulation of markets and algorithmic prices, which is a fear that has been very present in the States. And society, of course, we will see that the main fears about society, AI and society, doesn't come from partly from the US, but mainly from China also. We'll come back to this. And then I don't want to answer to these fears, but I will let Mr. Josua Bienjo and Yann Lequin answer. Of course, everybody knows those two guys. What Josua says, of course, what computer obviously lack is common sense. That's very important keyword, common sense. And in his interview, Josua says, today, I would prefer to talk about artificial stupidities than artificial intelligence. And why? Because to reach common sense, computers would have to learn by themselves and reach what Yann Lequin called general artificial intelligence. And Yann says that general artificial intelligence need to overcome the current roadblock, technical roadblock, which is unsupervised learning that everybody knows here. Okay. And for the moment, what Yann says is that to go to the general unsupervised learning, we need to overcome certain number of obstacles, some what we see, and some which are hidden behind the obstacle we see. So this is a little, this is their view, and I try to, I will not challenge them on that because this is what these guys have received the Turing Prize this year. So fears, but also limitation of these fears. But let's go back in more concrete aspects. We were talking about value, and I like to use the Canadian report on AI value, because Canada is a big country for AI first, and it's not US, it's not China, it's not Europe, it's kind of elsewhere. It's kind of elsewhere, and I like very often what they say is very wise. So where do they see opportunities? The first thing they put in health, okay? Second opportunity in business, of course, that includes Industry 4.0 and so on. They put a lot of importance in education, training, and citizenship. They work a lot on what they call urbanization 4.0, that include mobility, environment, natural resources, smart cities, and things like that. They also include arts, media, communication, heritage. Of course, law and cyber justice. This is a very polemic topic, but of course there will be change in that area. And of course, ethics, governance, democracy. Democracy they put in number 7, but this can be discussed. And international relations, humanitarian action, and environment. So that's a kind of summary of the opportunities I like. This, of course, could be detailed. There are books for each of these items, and we have no time to go into detail on that. What we see here that data is important. Data is important because beyond the traditional view of procedural AI, all the statistical new territories are based on data. And of course, when we talk of data, there is the question is always ask, what about personal data? We'll not enter this debate here because it's too short, but let's see that this topic has been addressed for a long time, Everybody knows the GDPR, which has been put in Europe, which is also very respected in states like California and so on. So everybody that there are guidelines on data, on personal data. But something which is not very often addressed is the topic of non-personal data. And this is also addressed by the European Commission. And very recently, in July, they updated the policy on the free movement of non-personal data, which is very important. And in the opinion of many in the European Commission and in the industry, will lead to something that they call the data economy. So what is a data economy? Well, there is a lot of reports on that. And the general statement is that circulation of data will create value. Okay, mainly in industry, mainly in the best example are health and manufacturing 4.0. We leave voluntary all marketing, e-commerce, and recommendation application behind. But let's concentrate on what we say good value, and this the data in Europe, we believe, we believe that data and data feeding AI would create value, not only economic value, but also social value, health value, democracy value, and so on. Let's have a look at some non-personal data initiative. We come back to the fact that there is a lot of data around in IoT, and personally I'm involved. We'll discuss that later in several logistics and manufacturing 4.0 project. A lot of data. We'll give example at the end. There is a big initiative on open data. Some of them are not personal, the Earth observation, environment sensors, but then after that you have a wonderful initiatives on open data. There is an emerging market for data, commercial market, and I will give you an example with our friends from Dawex that maybe some people know. Dawex has built the biggest I would say database, but it's not a database, a business corpus of data on something which is far from being personal, which is tires. Their specialty is data on tires. Okay, so that's that gives you an example, and they have built this using, of course, Michelin and other suppliers, and they are valorizing this corpus from various projects. Then, of course, we have to quote another initiative, which is the new governance that industry is looking to really harness this value. Of course, we have the big players like Siemens and Dassault working on it. That's clear, with MindSphere and 3D Experience. But we should quote, and because this association is part of AI4U also, Industrial Data Space, which is organizing the specification, the recommendation, the standard for a P2P network of trusted data in industry. And we're not talking about personal data, we are talking about IoT, we are talking about temperature, we are talking about industrial data. So this is important, and this is, in my opinion, where we can have some value in Europe, because we have big players, we are organized, and that's a way we could create value with AI and data. So now we have also to have a unique value proposition in Europe and not be driven by the West nor by the East. So let's try to define the originality, and I said unique value proposition of what we can offer in Europe. And here I have my favorite drawing. I am not going to describe it in detail. So you have the West, you have the East. Let's say that the West has a very liberal approach to data and AI. Let's say the East has a very collective approach to data and AI. So what shall we do in between? So what shall we do in between to preserve our own culture, our own economy, and how are we going to react to that? I put here a little logo I invented, and it's not an official logo, CEAI. Maybe we can one day work on what CEAI is, but of course, there have been a lot of people working on that, and recent meeting of the AI Alliance Assembly has already set up a few key takeaways that I am not going to read. All of us normally should have read them before, and if not, I will give you all the links to really follow up what the originality we try to push in Europe. Some documents, of course, under the guidance of the high-level expert groups, the policy investment recommendation for trustworthy AI, which should be the European way to deal with all these very important topics. Just to mention really the 7 principles of trustworthy AI, which is extracted from the previous document. Human agency and oversight, technical robustness and safety, privacy and data governance. This is what I mentioned. Privacy is important, but data governance is very important in terms for the industrial aspects, transparency, diversity, social and environment well-being, accountability. I'm not going to develop that. A lot of people are much more competent than I am on this. But it's very important to notice that the counter-lobbying is also very active. And just have a look. I am not going to spend some time on that, but have a look at what Center for Data Innovation is doing, which is the counter-lobbying, which is led by very liberal stakeholders in AI. So just to mention and not commenting on that. Okay, we're reaching the end of this presentation. Just a little bit about TerraLab. TerraLab, as Carmen was saying, is a French AI and big data platform, one-stop shop for research, innovation, and education. It has started. It has been active for 4 years. Has supported 60 projects with CNIL, Orange, AXA, La Poste, Valeo, and Gallica. Supported also research projects like Boost, MIDI, and now AI4U. The unique selling proposition is security, sovereignty, honest broker, platform for AI project, very rich ecosystem that includes researchers, data scientists, data providers. We'll come back to this if needed, SMEs, startup students. The business model is sustainable now. It's a kind of hybrid business model that includes private and public resources. It's a fully owned subsidiary of IMT. IMT is the biggest engineering university or school in France. And we have entered into several labels from the BDVA, from AIDIH, and we are also representing the industrial data space, EDSA is a short name, in France being the national contact point. Basically, that's I wanted to say. The boss of TerraLab is my good friend Anne-Sophie Taillandier. if you have any question or requirement, you can talk to her. All their contacts are here. So basically, that's it. Thank you for your attention. This was the first pilot for the cafe. So I hand the floor to Carmen, if you may. If you have you want to talk now, Carmen, please.
Yes, hello. I'm coming back. I'm taking over the screen as well. One moment. Thank you very much. It was a very, very engaging presentation. And it was important that you really started the web cafe session, because it's not so easy to start. And I have some questions. May I start? And then if somebody in the audience has a question, please enter it also under the questions, and I will read them to Pierre. So my question is, which AI projects are you dealing with in the moment with Terra Lab?
As I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest projects we had was with La Poste, and which involved 15 teras of raw data from machine. It's IoT data. It was not streaming. It was on it was batch data, but this was a huge. We put together the industrial problematics from La Poste in terms of logistics, in terms of optimization of the flow of the letters, and this was a big project. We had another project in diabetes, collecting many different sources of data to be analyzed for the diabetes cure. And we had also some with SMEs. We had some with Valeo in predictive maintenance. This is with big industrial guys, and health, which is health also is at the size of project in health are at industrial level, and some more smaller project with some SMEs. I cannot quote, but it's very, very well known. These guys they're having a network of sensors on HVAC installation in the distribution area, with Carrefour, with Auchan, and all the big HVAC installation. They have a lot of sensors to monitor, of course, the operation of the refrigeration aspects. This is by law, because it's of course the gas are under examination all the time, and they have uploaded all this data into a repository, into a corpus, and beyond the standard alerts that they are providing to their customer, we start to see that we could provide much more service to the mass distribution actors about optimization of their HVAC facilities according to temperature, traffic, level of sales, and so on. So it's very, very interesting project for SME, which involve not only AI, but also a proposal for a new business proposal, starting from just security alerts providing to really value added for their customer. So that's this kind of project we are dealing with currently. Yeah.
Super. Yeah, interesting. I have a provocative question. Like, I am the director of an SME in Germany. Would that be the right place to go for me to Terra Lab, even if I'm a German company?
Oh yes, of course. We started in France because there was a lot of things to do in France. I do not mention the early project we had with a big insurance company and so on, but we could talk for it forever. But since a couple of years, but thanks to European projects, we have been delivering also services to German SMEs. Was a drone designer for indoor warehouse examination, and another in Spain for quality insurance with video. Okay, so that's the two, and inside H2020 project called MIDI, we are now providing together cross-boundary services to Italy, Spain, Germany, and Poland. This is in the making. Yeah? And of course, this is very important to say. This is a key objective of the Commission around the DIH, Digital Innovation Hub initiatives.
Okay, thank you. And well, I have another question. And what can you just give a little outlook what we can expect from the AI for EU platform for SMEs? Will there be also data or tools or anything?
So just I will answer with an example. Okay, we inside AI for You there are pilots. Okay, the key thing, as we have seen, is access to data. That's key. We have one of the pilots and we are working on it. It's almost done, where a big industrial company will allow hosting of some of their data on TerraLab. And we can use this data in a secure environment with a lot of security procedure, both legal and technical, to access this data and perform data science work on it. So the first level is an industrial player sharing data and SMEs of the data science world working with this data to create value. That's the first level. Okay. Then second level would be SMEs who have data. For the moment, SMEs who have data are more in the I would say marketing and e-commerce topics, so they can do without us. They are rich enough to perform. So basically, in the MIDI project, we are also scouting SMEs, in particular manufacturing SMEs, to check whether they are mature enough to take value out of the data they have. And this is not an easy prospect, but we have already we have already a few projects ongoing, but apart from the one on the HVAC sensors, I have no example of SMEs valorizing their own data for the moment.
Okay, thank you. And one question from Alessandro, who sent this over the chat. Hi. You focused on data-driven AI. AI has also developed tons of model-based, knowledge-driven methods for 50 and more years. How do you see the role of these methods today and tomorrow? Thank you, Alessandro.
Thank you, Alessandro. You see, as I said, and this is a personal opinion. I know it's not shared inside AI for you. That's why it's my personal opinion. All these models have been here for years. I was in Silicon Valley in 1984, okay, dealing with what we call ASICs, ASICs, and in ASICs verification, at that time we included AI, okay, we included AI. Of course, it was the AI we had at that time, and this was useful. But as you said, this did not generate much value. At that time, we did not generate value. So this is my personal opinion, that the real value comes from availability of data and going from to statistical methods. That's my own opinion. But this is, of course, a discussion that could go on forever.
Yes, thank you. I want to say that we are slowly closing our session here, and the idea is, if you want to discuss more with Pierre or with me, or then please go via email and of course our community platform called EXO, as you like. This whole cafe session was supposed to be like a long coffee break, so an extended coffee break in the middle of the afternoon. And we will therefore now also stop this session. I want to tell you at the end, as this is a pilot, we want to go in October really public. And if you feel like being a speaker, please send me a short email, as well as if you know somebody who would like to present his views on AI, please send it to me. On the long run, it will be a weekly sessions every Wednesday from mid-end October on until the end of the project. So we have a lot of space, a lot of time to discuss a lot. And don't be shy. All the views are interesting. And this is a community-driven cafe. So therefore, it would be great to meet you online again next time. Thank you very much. And I want to thank you. My email you see in the PowerPoint, but you have it also, it's clear. Have a nice afternoon. Thank you again, Pierre. That was very important. And you will all get a recording link, a link to this video, which we just did together. We will send this link in the next days.
And do not hesitate to ask a question directly to me if you have a question on the presentation.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Una, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.